Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm just raising my desk. Good morning to you. If you're here live with me, please type in the chat or say hello. If you're here on the YouTube channel, I'd love to know that you're here. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Tuesday to you all. I hope you're live. Hope you are happy and well today, this snowy Tuesday morning here in Austria. And this morning, my oil of choice is Ravensara. One of my favorites. It's very similar. It's the botanical name is Cinnamomum camphora, and it's very similar to the eucalyptus, but it's gentler, much gentler than eucalyptus, and perhaps not as sweet. So slightly less sweet than eucalyptus to me, anyway. I've actually since COVID lost my sense of smell and taste. It's coming back. But I can't smell as intensely as I did before. So I really have to use quite a bit to actually smell it as deeply as I would like to. But I'm sure that will change over the next couple of days again. So this is Ravensara, and it's, as I say, very similar to eucalyptus, and also similar in its effects. So it's antiviral, antifungal, and antibacterial, and it's great for the airways. So anything to do with your respiratory system, upper respiratory system, it's really lovely, very gentle enough for young children and for dogs as well. Obviously mixed into a carrier oil and not put directly on them. You offer it to them, just rub it in your hands, and offer them to sniff, and it's beautifully clearing and soothing to the airways. So that's my oil of choice today, Ravensara. Lovely, lovely plant. And I use this in place of tea tree, because I don't use tea tree around my animals. There are some people say it's fine, but I would prefer to stay away from tea tree when it comes to the animals. There has been some known side effects, so I prefer to use Ravensara instead of tea tree. So it's one of my go-tos for that. So good morning again, everybody. I hope you're well. I hope you can see me. I hope you can hear me. Just type in the chat if you're here. And I'm going to get started on our chat about self-control versus self-regulation. And it's quite an interesting topic, as I think, because we talk a lot about teaching our dogs self-control and impulse control right from when they're pretty young, from young dogs and puppies. We talk about teaching our dogs to have the self-control so that they're not so impulsive when they want to just dash out and chase that cat, or jump up and grab something from my hand, or dash through the doorway, or jump out the car. All of these things we see as a lack of control of impulse. They just they don't think before they act as we might do as humans. They kind of just jump into the situation and go for it. So we have been taught, or it's common practice, that we say we need to teach our dogs some impulse control, or we need to teach them some self-control so that they can control their emotions and not be so out there. But I think that there's a difference between self-control and self-regulation. And I'm going to give you my perspective of what I think the two are different. There is certainly some overlap between the two, but I think there's a distinct difference when we're dealing with behavior challenges that I think is really, really important for people to understand. So let's start off with self-control. So self-control is when we are holding ourselves back in the moment from doing something that we would really love to. And this can be a useful skill if we are talking about perhaps delayed gratification. So if I know that I hang on for 5 minutes more and don't, jump out the car or whatever, if I hang on for 5 minutes more, I can jump out the car and then rush down to the lake. I'm talking about it as if I was a dog, okay? Or I know that if I just sit here and wait and hold my impulse in. When my person puts down my food, I can hold it back and hold it back and hold it back and then jump towards my food and have my food, and it's absolutely delicious. There's a gratification that comes at the end of that. There's a reward, if you'd like to call it that, but it's something that the animal or the dog looks forward to, and so they are prepared to kind of rein in their emotion in the moment, just rein it in, just for a short while before they can let it out, because they know something good is going to come at the end. So I kind of liken it to delayed gratification in some circumstances. Also, for instance, if you do dog sports like agility, for instance, your dog is waiting at the start line, and they're not sort of, well, tell me when you're ready, and I will go when you're ready. It's like ready, steady, they've got all that energy, they're pumped up, and they're ready to roll and ready to explode the moment you give them the cue to go. So this for me is self-control. It's being able to just rein yourself in temporarily in the moment, before that energy bursts out in whatever form it bursts out in. However, there's certainly a place, as I've mentioned a couple of, with the agility and asking our dogs to wait for something, wait before they rush out the door, wait before they rush, to grab their food, or don't just jump up and grab the food in my hand. All of those things, there's a place for those. And certainly we can help our dogs to teach them. And they are behaviors that the dog learns very quickly because, as I say, there's this delayed gratification. There's something good coming at the end of it. However, what we need to be very mindful of, I think, in these circumstances is that the emotion underneath is still there. Whatever that emotion is, whether it's excitement, frustration, over arousal, stress, whatever it is still there. All they're doing is bottling it up for a period of time. So either it's a period of time before they can go and do that thing, or it's completely bottled up because, let's take it, for instance, in a very controlling situation. So we say to our dogs, don't bark, don't bark, don't bark. And we sort of standing in front of them and got our finger in their face, whatever it may be, to stop them from barking in that specific situation. Now there's an element of fear. So there's not an element of delayed gratification coming on. They are retaining themselves from exploding because they have fear of threat of whatever it is. Don't do that, don't do that. So now the emotion underneath there is still there, but now there's an element of fear. Oh dear, an element of fear on top of that. I've just spilled my tea. 1 moment. So now there's an element of fear on top of all of that. So that's not helpful at all when we are trying to, in effect, calm the animal down, okay, which is what self-regulation is. If we want to self-regulate, it means that we are aware of our emotions and our feelings and our thoughts, and we are able to change those in the moment. We're able to down-regulate ourselves. So if we're in a high state of arousal, we're able to bring ourselves down to a lower state of arousal, so that we can behave in a different way. So instead of bottling up that emotion and holding it within us and not letting ourselves behave in that way in the moment, to down-regulate or to self-regulate ourselves, I'm now taking my emotional state from a highly aroused state into a more relaxed state where I don't have any motivation to behave in that way, to have that outburst, or to shout, bark, whatever it may be. So I'm able to actually control my emotions, my feelings, and my thoughts around that incident in order not to do it. So it's a kind of take a deep breath. This is okay. I feel safe. My body feels safe. And there's no need for me to feel anxious. There's no need for me to feel afraid in the situation, etc. And therefore, my behavior and my actions around that event are different. So I hope you can see and understand the difference between those two, as I see it. So the one is the emotion underneath there, the self-control. You're just controlling yourself in the moment, but the emotion is still underlying there. The other one is actually changing the underlying emotion. So you're actually changing your thoughts processes and your feelings and your behavior, therefore, around that incident. So yeah, so it's the ability to calm down and change that emotion. And it's the ability to be able to self-soothe ourselves in that situation, to do something, to take some action that is going to down-regulate our emotions. And we know that when our dog is in a state of high arousal, they're in the orange zone, and they're either overexcited or they're fearful, or whatever it is, they're in that fight-flight state. What happens then is, as we know, is the prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of the brain, is shut down, and so it's very difficult for somebody to self-regulate when they're in that state, because our prefrontal cortex, which is the place where we might bring the first awareness to ourselves and what's going on in our bodies at the time of we feeling that emotion, is turned off. It's offline. It's not available to us, and therefore we have to find an alternative if we want to help ourselves or our dogs down-regulate. So we'll speak about that afterwards. Yeah, so our prefrontal is offline during that phase. So what we have to know, what we have to look at is what are other ways of helping ourselves and our dogs to down-regulate or to self-regulate in a situation like that. And one of them is through co-regulation. And co-regulation means I regulate my emotions and my feelings off of somebody else's. I take the cues of that other person or that other